topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Welcome to Aging Like a Badass. I'm Kimberly Price, your 40-something host, and I'm on a mission to create the trusted spaces to help you navigate life's wrinkles. Hide from uncomfortable conversations? Not a chance. The raw and real is the rocket fuel that ignites change, and there is no better time than the present to excavate the messy and activate your inner superpower to create a life you love. So stick around and get ready to learn the tips, tricks, and truths to age like a badass, because wrinkles aren't the problem, they're the solution. Welcome back to Aging Like a Badass. I am excited. We have Stephanie Laffney in the house today, and we are going to be talking about how to thrive, have fun, and experience the joy of impact in the world as an introvert. So welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. And your bio. So I want to share a little bit, but then I want you to share a little bit about yourself. So we got connected through Instagram, and what was super fun to learn about with you is that you are using all of these gifts and skills on the inside to help impact introverts on the outside. So you're creating the space for introverts to be able to access their own gifting in a way that doesn't, I guess I would say, cover them in, the fear or the things that hold them back from sharing the things that they have, because we all have those gifts. So you are a millennial wife, you're a Frenchie mom, you live in New York City. You talk about in your bio that when you're not spending time in the gym, that you're in Central Park, and you have some new things that you're putting out this summer in your introvert community on Facebook. So I'm super curious, because usually people don't come out and say, okay, I'm an introvert, and hey, all of you introverts, let's do this. So why? Tell me why. What inspired you?
So funny you should ask that. I didn't actually know I was an introvert for a long time. I just thought I had so many other words to describe myself, all of them being negative. And before anybody listening gets mad at me, introversion is not a negative thing. It is a beautiful, positive thing. And we'll get to that, I promise. But so I didn't always know I was an introvert. I thought I was shy. I thought I was awkward. I thought I was weird. I thought I was uncomfortable. I thought people didn't really understand me. But in going on this journey inward and just kind of learning more about myself and what I need and what my energy looks like, and just sort of the way that I look at the world, I discovered that I am an introvert, and it's because I'm an introvert that I was actually able to go on this journey. Introverts tend to look inward, and we tend to spend a lot of time in our own little world. And so it's very natural for us to be able to go on this journey inward and explore ourselves. So for me, one of the biggest things that I struggled with was living in my head. And I bet if there's any introverts listening right now, you probably understand this. I lived in my head. I was constantly thinking, pushing my brain to the absolute brink. And it was frustrating. It was annoying. It was hard to live with. But the way that I was able to really fully kind of come out of that was to push myself to go out in the real world and live and explore things that I like to do that don't necessarily involve thinking. And having all of these experiences is really what helped from the inside out. So
I love it.
An alarm went off. I'm so sorry.
That's
Um,
okay. And
so
I love, Stephanie, how you said in the beginning that introverted, being an introvert or using the word introverted isn't a negative thing. I think that's really
mhm,
important for people to hear because I think sometimes, the society wants us to be out. They want
right.
us to be extroverted. They want us to push. They want us to be, the trailblazers, the pioneers, but there isn't anything to say that an introvert can't be that too. So talk a little bit more
Absolutely.
about what you mean when you say it's not a negative thing to be an introvert.
Absolutely. So what I've learned about introversion is it's simply a way that we receive energy, and that we display our energy. So extroverts tend to get energy from external sources and external
Mm.
validation. They really draw their energy from being in conversations and being out there in the world. And that's kind of when extroverts thrive. Whereas introverts, we thrive when we're spending a lot of time with ourselves, recharging, going inward. Um, and so because because all introversion is the way that you gain your energy and interest in the world, it can't
Mm.
be a bad thing. It's literally just something about you. Um,
Mm.
and you can let it be whatever you want it to mean. Like introversion, I used to think was somebody who was awkward and weird and shy like myself. um, but those are just, I think that those are just the way that a lot of introverts tend to present themselves because we spend so much time in our own little world. um,
Mhm.
but it gets to be whatever you want it to be. It's just a piece of yourself, and when you learn to honor and embrace it, it gets to be a really positive thing rather than a negative.
Yeah, and I love the way you describe that introversion is an energy. It's a place where you get your energy. And I
Mm-hmm.
think of, like a way of being. Like introversion is a way of being, and there's no negative way of
Absolutely.
being, and that you get
Right.
to access that, you get to embrace that, and then you get to share that and that impact that you have in a way that doesn't feel like you have to be somebody else, and it doesn't feel like you have to be out in the world doing the things in the ways that an extrovert would do them. So how
Exactly.
old were you at the point that you realized that characteristics about yourself, this way of being that you had been since you were a little girl, that all of the descriptives that you had used to look at yourself, weird, shy, quiet, all these
Mm-hmm.
other things, at what age did you learn to embrace that?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like there's a long answer and a short answer. So do you want to hear both?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. So I was 26 when I started this whole journey. But I didn't know what this journey was exactly going to be. It actually started as a fitness journey on Instagram, because my
Mm.
wedding got canceled twice during COVID. And I wanted to make sure that I could still fit in the dress, so I started an Instagram.
Mm.
Um, that quickly evolved into me going inward rather than focusing on my outward appearance. And so slowly, like over the last 3 years, I've just been peeling the layers and learning how to reframe my mindset around who I am. Um,
Mm.
but I think that I started to really let go of a lot of those negative words around 28. So earlier this
Yeah.
year. So it
So
took a good 2.5 years.
what's been your underlying driver in it? So your why, like what gets you up every day in the morning and drives you out of bed to keep on this journey, this inward journey where you're learning your new words, you're discovering, rediscovering yourself, you're growing, you're changing. And now what I see you doing is now you're creating things to help others do that. So what is that in you, or who, what's the why behind it?
Oh, I love that question. So I think the why behind it for me is I, growing up, because I was so shy, I felt like I was living somebody else's narrative. Um, I felt like people were telling me, how to be, who to be, what to be, what I wanted. Um,
Hmm.
and I was just kind of like, okay, well, that's fine. I was like that
Hmm.
passive, easygoing person that just wanted to check off all the boxes that everybody else was giving to me. And then around 26, I kind of realized, like, you know, a lot of this isn't for me, and that's because it didn't come from me. And so I had to really go on this journey to figure out, like, who am I? Because if I
Yeah.
don't know who I am, then how can I possibly know what I want, or
Mm.
what would light me up and feel like a purposeful, meaningful life?
Yeah.
And so in figuring out who I am, I've been able to figure out what I want, and therefore I've been able to actually make that my reality. And I just want to help other people know that, like, if it's possible for me, it is 1,000% possible for you. Like, I am not
Yeah.
somebody who has a background in psychology or therapy or really coaching for that matter. I dabbled in coaching for a little bit, but like this is not my background. This is something that like I did by accident, and I want to provide others with the opportunity to do it in a more collapsed timeline.
Yeah. You're sharing your journey. And along that journey,
Hmm.
the things that you're learning, then you're turning around and being able to teach and share with other people, which is really powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you feel
Absolutely.
like your journey through, were you living in New York City during, when COVID and the pandemic started? Were you in the city at that time? So do you
Yeah,
feel
it
like,
was wild.
well, I was going to say, do you feel like that's been a catalyst, that experience during that time at the age that you were at? Do you feel like that's been a catalyst for recognizing things that maybe
Mhm.
had that not happened, you wouldn't have recognized so quickly?
100%. And it's so funny because my husband and I were chatting about this like last night. Um, I said to him, "Hey, do you ever think about yourself in like a parallel universe? Like if COVID didn't happen, like
Mm,
who would you be?" And he goes, "I
mm,
would probably be pretty similar, but you would be a completely different person." Um, so it's interesting to kind of hear him reflect that back at me because it's so true. Uh,
yeah.
at the beginning of the pandemic in New York City, everything was closed. It was so creepy. It was like a ghost town. And
Mm,
I had to cancel my wedding twice eventually. But we were 19 days away. And
mm.
so I went from
Wow.
the day that, yeah, so the day that I picked up my wedding dress, I also had to make the call to all my friends and family that actually were postponing this thing indefinitely.
Oh,
So obviously I know, like, hindsight 2020, I have so much to be grateful for, but in the moment, or bride to be, and all of a sudden, like, a pandemic of all things comes out of the clear blue sky and cancels my wedding. So I went into
mm,
this, like, mental, emotional hole. I felt so bad for myself. I was eating banana bread nonstop,
yeah.
watching Tiger King. It was just, and I'm like I put all my happiness on this day. I was like, everything's gonna be so great, and my wedding day is gonna change my whole life. All these amazing
Mm,
things are gonna happen, and then it just got ripped out from under me, and I was like, just a mess. And I was like, I don't ever want an experience like this, or a bad traumatic experience like this to take such a crazy toll on me. I want to be the kind of person that things roll off of and that I
Yeah.
just kind of roll with the punches. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, there were many of us, all of us had our stories, the locations that we were in, the country at that time, the experiences that we had through it. And we get this choice in life in those things that happen of, no matter how tragic, how powerful, how impactful they are, do we use those for good? Do we use those as opportunity? Or do we continue to live in the struggle of the aftermath of what they leave behind? And so I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that, you've taken your experiences during that time and you've chosen to turn those into ways, not only to impact yourself, because it always starts with us. We can't go out into the
Absolutely.
world and impact without first doing the work ourselves. And it was interesting because
Right.
at the beginning of our conversation, which I think this is a key thing to recognize in this conversation, is the world praises and the world gives a lot of glory to extroverts. But I will tell you that one of the greatest struggles of an extrovert, and I am one, is going inward. And so, although it might look glorious on the outside, to be a person that can go out in the world and do these things, very easily and, have a voice, that voice doesn't hold the weight if I can't first do the work inside myself. And so, you're really at an advantage to some degree being an introvert because going inward is easier.
Right.
And doing that work, you're already a step ahead in that. And then it becomes whether you're an introvert or an extrovert and you're able to go inward first, then it's knowing that that growth is also experiencing and doing the work of getting through the hard, right? The things that have to
Right.
shift and change. So I think that's,
Absolutely.
you know, really
Wow.
interesting. So what are a couple of things that you would tell, a fellow introvert or even an extrovert? What are a couple of tips that you would say if they're just beginning their journey? They're listening in and they're like, oh, well, maybe I'm not weird, or maybe I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me. I want to explore this idea and embrace that I'm an introvert. What would be a couple of things that you could say, this is what I would look at first, and maybe this is what I would look at second, or do first,
Mhm.
or, frame that however it works for you.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So I think the first thing that I would say is definitely I want you guys to like notice when you're comparing yourself and your journey to other people. I think that's probably the biggest thing that tripped me up. Not just in the beginning, but at certain points along the way. I was constantly comparing myself to other people, and that's so
Mhm.
natural because a journey like this one is terrifying. Like it'll probably be the most terrifying but most rewarding journey you'll ever go on. And so it's natural because we've never done this before to look to other people for guidance and look to other people for what have they done. And as much as
Yeah.
I'm welcoming people into my circle to say like, hey, let me help you through this journey. My journey is not your journey, and your journey is not the next person's journey. So I would say yes, look to others for guidance and for support along the way, but just keep in mind that like they have had different experiences leading up now, and so have you. And you notice when you're comparing yourself and call yourself out for it and try to find a way to reframe it.
I love that. I love that. And you say that you're not a coach, but I would encourage you that it isn't it isn't a training necessarily that you have. I mean, sure, there are principles of coaching and ways of presenting information, etc. But you have a lot of wisdom, and when you teach,
Oh, thank you.
that's a form of coaching. Being a
Hmm.
teacher, and the way that you share and what you just shared about everybody's journey is going to be different. and recognize the things in your own journey. And I always love to tell people, even in listening, to our conversation today, there are going to be things that you agree with, and there are going to be things that you don't agree with, right? And so take the things, the nuggets, the things that really speak to you, and then let everything else go.
Absolutely.
We don't have to take on every piece of information all the time.
100%. Yeah, and I love. It's funny that you say that. I was a coach for a while, and it's something that I may revisit in the future. I have no idea, but right
Yeah.
now, I think that like as I'm coming back outward after this long journey inward, I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm relearning like how to operate in the world, but this time as me for the first time. Like I feel like I'm like
Mm.
it's like I'm not a religious person, but it's like a rebirth of sorts. And so I'm sort of
Mm.
finding my footing, figuring out where I fit in the world, figuring out how I talk, walk, crawl, fly. Like I don't know yet. And so I think that this year for me is all about really grounding myself in this new person.
Mm.
Like even as much on the outside, I'm totally different on the inside.
Yeah.
And I think once I feel like I'm standing on my own 2 feet and the ground's not gonna fall out from under me, then I guess I'll figure out if I'm meant to be a coach or if I'm meant for other work in the world.
I love that. I love that. And what I would say to that, and I would say, to others, and I do say, because I have quite a few years on you, is season of life, like the uncovering doesn't stop. And what
Hmm.
you're
Oh
growing is
God.
you're growing roots. And those roots are just going to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And you're going to keep uncovering and rediscovering. And there's going to be a lot of rebirths in your life. And so if you can
Yes.
just embrace everyone and know that there's more and look at that, with curiosity and excitement. And, as we grow and develop and we put down those roots, we get wiser and everything just gets bigger and better.
I know. Yeah, I love that you said that. That's like one of my core beliefs is that, even though things are changing and evolving, I want to, from here on out, truly embrace the idea that I have it all right now, like right here and right
Mm.
now, but it only gets better from here. As long
Yeah.
as I commit to continue to grow.
Yeah. Yep. And
Uh,
I do think a lot of people spend a lot of time wanting what's next. So,
mhm.
you think about, as a young person, we think about, I can't wait until I'm 16. I can drive my car. I mean, depending on where you are, right? I get to drive a car, and then I can't wait until I'm 18 because then I'm an adult, and I can't wait until I'm, you
Right.
know, in college, and I can't wait until I have my degree so I can make money, and I can't, all these, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait, instead of, like you're saying, the can't wait should be right now. It should be in the moment that you have. And every moment is going to
Exactly.
get better. But if you don't enjoy the moment you're in, then the next moment isn't going to be as good as it would have been because you learn from the moment that you're in.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, like even just last night, I'm getting my nails done, right? And this one of the first times I've gotten my nails done. This is just like a very random experience that I had that I noticed. This is one of the first times I've gotten my nails done since sort of embracing this new idea of like, right now is it. Like this is the moment. And so I'm getting my nails done, and typically, while getting my nails done, I would be thinking about the things that were on my list, and I'd be stressing out about work, and I'd be stressing out about the concert that I'm going to tonight, and I'd be stressing out about the wedding I have this weekend, and I'd be with one hand trying to pay my bills while getting the other hand done. Like it was not relaxing at all. It was not a good experience, but I was there because I felt pressure to have nice nails because that's what society told me that I'm supposed to do, right? Last night, I listened to the Grateful Dead while I got my nails done, and I watched a little bit of Summer House on Bravo, and then I just kind of sat there in silence. And like the entire experience was fantastic. I was relaxed, I was chilling, and the bonus was that now my nails look pretty. You see the difference between the two experiences? I
Yep.
just had a really nice hour where I just sat and did what I felt like. And I had nails at the end versus I suffered through an hour to have nails that I didn't really care about other people wanted for me. So
Yeah. And I
forget
hear
where
the
I was
word
going with
awareness.
that.
Yeah, I hear the word awareness, becoming aware. So when we're in the moment, we're really aware of what's going on. We're aware of the way things look. We're aware of the color. We can really do that when we're out in nature. When you're out in nature, if you're really paying attention and you're listening, it's all of those senses. And when you can practice this in meditation, it's the practice of what do you smell? What do you hear? What do you say? What are you not saying? Saying wouldn't be one. What are you feeling? And then being aware of each and every one of those. And then can you be aware of all of those at the same time? Can you smell, hear, see, and feel all at the same time?
Right.
And that's a
And if
practice. It's a
anyone is
practice to try.
absolutely, if anyone's sitting here saying there's no way I could do that, you can. You got to go try it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. So if people wanted to get connected to you, you said you're gonna start some new conversations. You have a community on Facebook for introverts where
hmm
you have inspiration and you have a lot of really great things in there. So how can
hmm
people connect with you?
So I would definitely say check me out on Instagram at Journey of an Introvert. Um,
Hmm.
I keep changing it. So it's like, anyway, Journey of an Introvert.
Okay.
Um, so there is kind of like my chronicles, like it's sort of my journey as it unfolds, documenting it. Eventually, maybe it'll be a book. I don't know. Who knows?
Mm.
But follow me there. And then I also have a community on Facebook called the Community for Introverts. And I will be co-hosting events later this summer with a lot of the people that helped me go on this journey inward with all of their resources and their wisdom and their knowledge, because I would be lying if I said I did this on my own. And I want to
Mm.
bring you guys the opportunity to experience and create your own experience for your own journey.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. Tell me, so are you doing a summit, like a live summit, or is this an in-person event with these individuals?
So this is, I don't know if I would necessarily call it a summit. It'll be more of just, weekly or 2 times a week, I'll drop a new virtual event. I would
Oh
eventually
yeah.
love to do in-person retreats, but for example, so experiences can embody so many different forms and so many different like ways of coming about. But one example is I co-hosted a dance party with a friend of mine.
Hmm.
And the idea was just get out of your head, get into your body, and dance for 5 minutes. Like you can do that every single day. Um,
Yeah.
I made
That's
a
fun.
total fool of myself in Central Park. If you guys want to go watch it, um, but it was so much fun. And then another example is a breathwork facilitator came in and hosted a special meditation.
Mm,
Um, so things like that. Some of them will be
yeah.
educational, some will be more interactive, some will
Yeah.
be just plain old fun. fun. So
that's
yeah.
exciting. Awesome. So they can
Yeah.
find that information by joining your community for Introverts on Facebook.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I am so excited for you. I'm proud of you. There's so many things, so many ways you're going to impact people in the world just by sharing, just by being willing to do the inner work and then sharing, which is extroverted, sharing that work, out in the world. And, if you're not somebody that likes social media like Stephanie does, and it isn't even that she likes it, that she's embraced it, she's utilizing it for good. There are other ways to do things. They're writing. There are lots of ways to share that gifting, in the world. And so I'm excited for you to get connected with Stephanie so that she can, as she shares the tools that she's been able to use to transform her life, maybe, one or all of those can be tools that you can also use to transform yours, including connecting with Stephanie. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kim. And I love that last note that you said, just about how, we create our own journey, and we're all reflections of what we feel on the inside. So I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're all an important piece of the puzzle. We can't, we need every piece of the puzzle to have the complete picture. And so, there's not a human that is here by mistake. We're all here, to complete that bigger picture. So you are valued. Well, all right, my friend, thank you for today. Have a wonderful week. I'm excited to stay connected and share the things that you're doing with the world. I want to share with the listeners, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in, whether it's, live or it's somewhere down the road you come across this. Reach out to either one of us anytime. And we're here on Thursdays on Aging Like a Badass, 1 p.m. Eastern time every week. Have a great week.
This is Kimberly Price, your 40-something host of Aging Like a Badass. See you every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on W4WN Radio as we come together to break the rules, ignore the critics, and age like a badass.